When a woman meets a man for the first time, she doesn't just see him, she reads him. Her eyes linger, not randomly, but instinctively. Before he even says a word, his body is already telling a story. The way he stands, the way he holds his gaze, the subtle movement of his hands, these become silent signals that whisper confidence, intention, and depth. Women's attraction toward men often begins in silence, not through conversation or charm, but through observation. From the very first moment, their attention moves beyond the surface, seeking cues that go deeper than appearance. This is because women are naturally intuitive readers of energy and presence. They don't merely look, they sense. Their perception is guided by emotion as much as by sight, and in that brief glance, they're picking up on subtle signals that most men aren't even aware they're sending. These are the cues that reveal confidence, authenticity, and how comfortable a man feels in his own body. It's less about physical perfection and more about how those physical details express something internal: self-assurance, composure, and awareness. When a woman looks at a man, she doesn't just see his body as a collection of features. She observes how he occupies space, how he moves within it, and how at ease he seems with himself. His stillness, his gestures, his eye contact, all of these communicate volumes. In that observation, her subconscious is decoding countless pieces of information about his character and emotional stability. Does he appear grounded or restless? Does his body language suggest openness or defensiveness? Every movement becomes a statement, a form of emotional communication that happens before words ever enter the scene. Women are drawn to what feels consistent when a man's presence aligns with the quiet confidence his body projects. That consistency builds a sense of trust and intrigue that goes beyond physical attraction. This kind of observation isn't deliberate or calculating, it's instinctive. Women are attuned to these details because, throughout history, their survival often depended on reading nonverbal signals accurately. Today, that same intuition manifests in attraction. When a woman notices how a man walks, how he stands, or how he gestures when he talks, she's unconsciously assessing not just his looks but his emotional energy. A man who carries himself with calm certainty, who doesn't fidget or shrink into himself, who holds his posture with quiet pride, naturally draws attention. It's not dominance that attracts, it's balance. The balance between strength and gentleness, between confidence and humility, between presence and ease. Attraction, in this sense, is less about what meets the eye and more about what the eye interprets. The way a man's body expresses who he is creates an immediate emotional impression. Women don't just notice these things, they feel them. They sense whether his energy invites connection or creates distance. The spark of attraction often begins right there, in that silent moment of awareness where intuition meets observation and the body begins to speak long before the voice does. Certain physical traits in men possess a kind of silent authority that transcends appearance. They send messages without words, revealing something fundamental about who a man is. Women may not consciously analyze it, but they instinctively recognize it. These physical cues, the way a man's shoulders rest, the steadiness of his gaze, the calm in his hands, become symbols of deeper qualities like stability, self-control, and grounded masculinity. It's not the shape or size of these features that matter most, but the energy they convey. A man who moves with quiet confidence tells the world he knows who he is and doesn't need to prove it. This unspoken assurance has a magnetic pull, and women sense it instantly because it reflects emotional safety and reliability, two qualities deeply intertwined with attraction. When a woman's attention lands on a man's physicality, it isn't vanity at play, it's instinct. Human beings are wired to respond to signals of strength and security. For women, those signals often appear in physical traits that represent steadiness, the broadness of his frame that suggests protection, the firmness of his stance that implies confidence, or the stillness in his body that communicates self-possession. Each of these sends a subtle message: this man is centered. And it's that centering, that sense of being anchored, that draws her in. His body language becomes a reflection of his inner landscape, telling her whether he is grounded or scattered, calm or chaotic, trustworthy or uncertain. These signals have less to do with physical perfection and more to do with presence. A man can be of any shape or build, but if his body projects composure, women notice. They're not looking for an idealized form, They're sensing for a certain emotional energy, the kind that says, I am here, and I am at ease with myself. That's what makes certain traits appear attractive even without conscious thought. It's a resonance, a quiet recognition between confidence and curiosity. His physical form becomes an invitation, not because it's flawless, but because it's expressive of something real. Women are exquisitely attuned to authenticity. They can sense when a man's physical signals match his emotional truth. When he stands tall, not to dominate but to be present, when his body language aligns with his calmness, it creates coherence, a unity between what is seen and what is felt. That coherence feels safe, magnetic, and trustworthy. It's what transforms an ordinary presence into an intriguing one. Women may notice specific body parts, but what they're truly responding to is the vibration behind them, the confidence that doesn't shout, but quietly radiates through every gesture, every breath, every movement. The first impression a man makes on a woman is never about achieving perfection. It's about authenticity. What captures her attention isn't flawless grooming or meticulously chosen clothing, but rather how genuine he appears in his own skin. Women notice when a man's confidence comes from a natural place rather than an effort to impress. Authenticity, in this sense, is magnetic because it reveals comfort with imperfection. A man who accepts himself fully, who doesn't hide behind performance or pretense, projects a quiet kind of confidence that instantly distinguishes him from those trying too hard to be noticed. His body language, tone, and movements all express one simple truth: he is at ease with who he is. And that self-assured ease is what draws women closer, not the illusion of flawlessness. When a woman observes a man, she isn't looking for perfection because perfection feels distant and artificial. Instead, she's drawn to the humanity in him, the way he smiles without calculation, the way he moves with natural rhythm, the way his energy feels unforced. Women are incredibly perceptive to authenticity. They can sense the difference between confidence that is real and confidence that is performed. When a man tries to project an image that doesn't align with his true self, something feels off, even if everything looks right on the surface. Attraction begins when there is congruence, when what a man presents on the outside reflects what he genuinely feels on the inside. That harmony between inner truth and outward presence creates emotional trust, the foundation of attraction that lasts beyond a first glance. Authenticity also communicates emotional maturity. A man who isn't afraid to be himself shows that he has moved beyond seeking external validation. This inner security is often what women notice first, even before specific features or gestures. His authenticity allows her to relax because it signals honesty and self-awareness. There's a certain calmness that comes from a man who doesn't feel the need to perform. He listens more than he boasts, observes more than he competes, and moves through the world with quiet assurance rather than constant self-promotion. That natural rhythm, that alignment between his physical presence and emotional energy, becomes the most compelling thing about him. A woman might first notice a man's eyes, his posture, or his smile, but what holds her attention is the feeling behind those details. When she senses that what she's seeing is real, that he isn't wearing a mask, her interest deepens. Authenticity allows attraction to breathe, to grow, and to feel safe. In a world filled with pretense, a man who shows up as himself, unapologetically and consistently, becomes unforgettable. When women notice certain body parts in a man, they're not evaluating beauty in the superficial sense, they're reading signals of emotion, presence, and energy. Every movement, every posture, every small adjustment in how a man carries himself communicates something deeper. The body becomes a language, one that speaks confidence, emotional safety, and awareness without words. Women are deeply sensitive to these nonverbal cues because they reveal what kind of energy a man brings into a space. It's not about muscular strength or perfect symmetry, it's about the subtle communication of how grounded, open, and trustworthy he feels. The way his body expresses itself tells her whether he's calm or tense, authentic or guarded, available or distant. These observations happen almost instantly and unconsciously, shaping attraction long before a single sentence is spoken. A man's physical presence carries emotional weight. His posture might express how he feels about himself, whether he stands tall with quiet confidence or slouches under invisible burdens. His gestures reveal his comfort in vulnerability or his need to protect himself. Even his facial expressions, the way his eyes soften or stay sharp, tell her what kind of man he is without requiring words. Women intuitively decode these signals, sensing who he might be beneath the surface. That awareness isn't calculated, it's emotional intelligence at work. They are drawn to men whose bodies express balance, strength without intimidation, calmness without detachment, openness without desperation. Such a man makes her feel at ease, not because of what he looks like, but because of what his body silently communicates about his emotional state. These nonverbal cues carry evolutionary and psychological significance. Throughout human history, survival often depended on being able to read intentions quickly. Today, that same instinct functions in attraction. A woman feels drawn to a man whose physical signals suggest emotional security and self-awareness, because those traits translate into relational safety. A man who can hold space with his presence, through eye contact, relaxed posture, and composed energy, signals that he's emotionally grounded. His body language tells her he's capable of connection without chaos, confidence without arrogance. That's what her intuition locks onto, the congruence between his energy and his physicality. The attraction that stems from these cues goes far beyond looks. It's about resonance, the feeling that his presence communicates something stable, honest, and emotionally safe. Women notice the way a man's body speaks because it reflects how he moves through the world. When his physical expression aligns with genuine self-awareness and calm, it creates an unspoken assurance that draws her closer, often before she even understands why. Attraction is never just visual, it's an unspoken dialogue between what is seen and what is felt. The human body communicates before the mind even has time to process, and women are exceptionally attuned to that exchange. When a woman looks at a man, her perception works on two levels, what her eyes register and what her intuition feels. His body, in that moment, becomes a messenger of his internal world. The way he moves, the rhythm of his gestures, the steadiness of his presence, all of these elements form an energetic language that she instinctively understands. Attraction, then, becomes less about the surface details and more about the feeling those details create within her. The tone of his voice, the calm in his stance, even the subtle confidence in his walk, they merge to create an emotional impression that bypasses logic and speaks directly to her intuition. What she feels is often far more powerful than what she sees. The visual cues may capture her attention, but the emotional vibration behind them sustains it. When a man's energy feels grounded, when his body language expresses quiet assurance and emotional steadiness, it creates an immediate sense of safety and curiosity. She doesn't consciously analyze this, she experiences it. This is why some men, even without traditional attractiveness, can still be deeply compelling. Their presence resonates on a frequency that makes her feel understood, calm, and drawn in. The body, in this sense, becomes a bridge, translating emotion into attraction. Women respond to this because it's authentic and instinctive, not manufactured or rehearsed. The way a man carries himself often mirrors how he feels about life. If his posture shows openness, if his movements are fluid and intentional, if his gaze feels present rather than distracted, she senses that he lives with awareness. That awareness feels magnetic because it reflects emotional intelligence, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to dominate. In that balance of strength and sensitivity, she experiences connection before conversation even begins. The interaction between what her eyes perceive and what her emotions interpret becomes the spark that defines the first layer of attraction. Every man emits an energy that is both seen and felt, and women are naturally skilled at recognizing its harmony or dissonance. They don't just notice appearance, they feel essence. When what they see aligns with what they sense, it creates a rare and powerful pull, the kind that doesn't fade with time, because it originates not in sight, but in resonance.